You are your biggest marketing tool. Your personal brand, how you represent your business. And if you go into a networking meeting just to do a tick box exercise, that can actually be more negative than positive if you're not acting and behaving in the right way.
Hello everyone, welcome to the next edition. This is Adventures in Networking. I'm James West.
And I'm Kelly West, and we're the founders of Only Networking, the business network for people who like people.
We're going to be reflecting in this episode on 2 months worth of Only Talks discussions that we've had in meetings. So we've gathered lots of data and information and knowledge about networking, what works for people, what doesn't, and why some people sadly are still sort of hoping something's going to click and networking will suddenly work.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about what happens when you stop chasing the shortcuts, stop waiting for the tech to save you, and basically stop leaving it all to chance in the hope that things will just fall into place.
Yes, so if you're watching us live, we'd love to see and read your thoughts. This is what we'd specifically like to know. You can put anything in the chat, but what we'd specifically like to know, when did networking finally start working for you and what changed? Because for most people, you'll find that it is a bit abstract and you won't be great at it straight away. I'm hoping, Kelly, that the members will have some good answers. I'm sure some of the regular viewers, Richard, Bernie, just in case you're watching, might jump on. So yeah, put your comments in the chat. We can show them live on the show. But we just need to start off by giving a huge thank you to Bibby Financial Services, who sponsor our show along the ticker tape there. We had a great time, didn't we, last month, Kelly, Alex and Helena. They were talking all about offering tips for small businesses trading in the UK and overseas, and explaining some of the support, the amazing support they give to small businesses in the UK. So if you'd like to learn more, check out episode 16 of Adventures in Networking and click the link. It's in the ticker. You can learn more about how Bibby could help you. It should also be in the comments as well. So let's kick off, Kelly. Only Talk. So we did a 2-parter, didn't we? This is our business topic discussion. We do this live in meeting. We hear back from lots of members. We build a lot of information and evidence. The first one that we talked about back in April, was it May? May,
yeah.
Yeah, it was May. Why people make it hard to be helped. Yeah, that was interesting, Kelly, wasn't it?
And I think a lot of people didn't realise that they made it hard to be helped. So it was a really good conversation. Being a bit vague in your ask, maybe not having the clearest of introductions and messaging, so that you've kind of muddied those waters before you've even asked for anything. I'm actually not sure what you do anyway, and then I'm not really sure what you're looking for, and that's a double whammy. But mainly little focus on that relationship building and helping others, but still expecting to turn up and things to fall in your lap and get results. So it was quite a combination of things, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think it did catch people off guard, because I think people think, oh, well, I just haven't found the right network. And if you think about it, your ability to get results at networking will largely be based on you, how you act and what you say. I'd like to think, Kelly, that within the Only Network, most of our members, and this isn't an exaggeration, understand that you've got to give help and attention to get help and attention. I think we're pretty well covered, because our culture, we tend to attract people like that. I think maybe the penny drop moment was that the huge difference between just saying that, hi, I'm John and I offer this service, and just asking for people who want that service, which is a kind of entry level way of doing networking. And I can understand that. That feels like, well, that's what I'm here for. I'll tell you what I do, and I'll tell you who I want to speak to. Job done. There's a huge difference, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is. And I guess the truth is, it is your response. It's your responsibility to help people help you. All right, it's not down to them to just be out there solely focused on what they can do to support you. And if they don't know who you serve or how they can help you, what you're asking for, well, they can't really do an awful lot to help, as much as they might try, no matter how generous they do want to be, because we see this all the time. And we always say this, incredibly proud of our Only community, and other networks will be in a similar space. you bring good people together and really good stuff happens. But that doesn't always just happen by chance. There's things you have to do in order to get to that space. And I think that key that you said there, I do hear this normally from visitors that come through, definitely not from members. Yeah, but I haven't found the network that works yet. Not really the network, is it? It's the fault.
If you become good at networking, and you know, me and Kelly were really good at networking. It's partly why we run a network, because we understand how to build a business through a network. I think that's one of we probably don't give ourselves enough kind of credence for that, Kelly, do we? Because you can run a network in a community, but unless you've actually been in one and worked out how to make it work, it's then difficult to kind of lead the way and show other people. But this is the truth. When you get good at networking, and it took us years, absolutely years of trial and error, training, learning what works, what doesn't. You can pretty much go to any network, not once, because you know, if you just go to a network once and you just ask and you expect to get, you come across as a chancer who's just kind of flitting around prospecting where they can. But if we went into a network for, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 meetings, Kelly, we'd start getting results, wouldn't we?
Oh, definitely. And actually, probably a bit of a missed opportunity somewhere there, James, I would say, because I do think when we do go into a network and we ask for something, we get it. We get what we ask for. We just don't ask that often because we're at the top of the tree and we're there to serve everybody else. You're looking very confused at me. But the point I'm making here is that continuity of networking, being a professional, doing what you're saying you're going to do, showing up, helping other people. When you then eventually do ask for something, people are going to be chomping at the bit to try and help you.
Very true. I'm just going to bring this little message up. Anissa.
Hi, Anissa.
Recently come into our lives. I was going to say a bit about where she's from and stuff, and I thought she probably don't want the world.
She might not want people to know that. No. Hi, Anissa.
She's wonderful.
Good
to see you. Absolutely. So this bit, Kelly, about people being specific in what they ask for, why do people find that so difficult, do you think?
I think it's because they think they're going to miss out. If I'm being too specific and if I'm asking for this one thing, what about all the 99 other things that I might not get as a result? But what in reality you're doing is you're casting so broad a net that you're not hooking onto any of our sort of memory points as to who we could actually connect you with. This is why we always say, I want to be connected to anyone who's got anything remotely to do with the service I provide. I mean, that's implicit, isn't it? If you're an accountant, you want to talk to people that need their books doing. You don't need to tell me that. I've got a really good example from a meeting this week that I keep wheeling out. Member came along and asked for a connection to a specific lady who's a partner of a law firm, big law firm. Is anybody connected to her? We all had a look on LinkedIn during the meeting to see if we were connected. I was connected to that lady and I said, that's fine. I'll reach out to her after the meeting and see if she's happy for a connection. Well, the member was able to tell me that she'd saved 12% on employee packages for one of their competitors. So when I reached out to this lady on LinkedIn and I sent her a voice note and said, we've been connected a while. We have never actually spoken, but I've just come from a networking meeting and somebody has asked for you specifically. Would you be open to a conversation because she saved one of your competitors 12% on employee packages? She replied and said, Kelly, that's wonderful that people are talking about me. Fantastic. But it's not actually me. And this is the name of the person that you need to speak to. Like, I had the member originally said, I just want to talk to people that want to talk to me about health benefits. I'm gone, blank. I don't know anybody. Of course I do know people. But there's not enough there for me to go, I can help you there. I've got to wait for that conversation to come up. Whereas being specific, I've gone and got you exactly what you've asked for because I can do that because that's easy for me to do.
It's that point, isn't it? If you don't qualify why you want the connection, the inference is, quite rightly so, that you want to sell at the person that you're looking for a connection to. Whereas if you give empirical evidence of, I could do this for them, you've made my job as the would-be referrer much easier, as opposed to just saying, I'm looking for leads. So yeah, it was very eye-opening, wasn't it? And we shared, didn't we, when we built our website business, and we ended up asking for Winchester businesses. So, you know, that's a massive reduction. Do you know a business that wants a website down to, we really love working with businesses in Winchester. So if you know a business in Winchester, you've created something that becomes a choice. Do I know a business in Winchester or don't I? Well, actually, I know 5 or I know 10, as opposed to, do I know a business? Well, yeah, I know millions of them, therefore I can't go through that process of elimination. So that opened loads of doors for us, Kelly, didn't it? And even to the point where people would sometimes contact us and say, oh, I'm not in Winchester, but I like you guys. Can I talk to you about building a website? What a nice situation to be in. By excluding them, you actually made them want to talk to you.
You made them want to talk to you more. And again, it's that, don't focus on what you might be missing out on. Focus on what you're not getting because you're not asking for it. Like you cast that net in a certain direction, but you're still going to capture other things around it.
Yeah.
It's just that you're making it easier for people to help you. Yeah.
So in the second part of this Only Talks, we talked about the bigger businesses elephant in the room of networking, because we hear this a lot. Oh yeah, but I want to meet bigger businesses. Often, by the way, ironically, being spoken by solo business owners. So I'm a solo business owner, and I'll just say it as it is. You're a solo business owner that doesn't really want to talk to small businesses because they're not important enough. But you think that if you get introduced to a big business, they're going to take you seriously as a solo business owner. Yeah. It's a weird little contradiction, isn't it? But that happens a lot. And we wanted to explore that, because you can absolutely reach big businesses via networking. But we threw some, I'm going to give these numbers again, because even though this was part of the talk, I think they're so eye-opening. Again, commonly heard thing at networking, and I bet you've heard a variation on this if you do a lot of networking. I would like a connection with a business with at least 50 employees. You heard that one? Doesn't sound that unreasonable, doesn't it? I'm looking to do business with a larger business because they've got money and all that kind of stuff. That's what we understand, and that's fine. So I've got 2 figures for you. If you're looking for businesses between 0 and 49 employees in the UK, because sole traders count as 0 employees, if you think I'm giving you a stupid number, there's 5.5 million of them in the UK between 0 and 49, okay? If you want businesses over 50 employees, there's 37,500 of them according to Gov UK as of last year. That's it. Like, what a ridiculously huge drop off. And I know 0 to 49, there's a big range within that. But the point of that number, Kelly, was to try and show people, look, are you really wanting to aim for that incredibly small pool who are all going to be, they're not going to be particularly emotional about you. They're just going to want a result and ROI. Do you want to spend your whole time chasing that market, or do you want to come down a rung or 2, because this was the other number that we gave? What between businesses between 1 and 9 employees, so going now into the micro business space that a lot of people dismiss. 1 to 9 spends globally 656 billion every year, according to Forbes. So again, this idea that, well, I've got to go to the 50 plus because they're the people with the money. No, small businesses between 1 and 9, not 20, 1 and 9 are spending billions, hundreds of billions a year. It was eye-opening, wasn't it?
Yeah, and quite often in that space, they're spending money, but not necessarily expecting an ROI in terms of a pound sign, because what they're doing is spending money on services that will help them on their business journey so that they can create more of an ROI for what they're selling. So I think that's a really, really important thing to consider. There's also a point here is, and we're not saying, oh, you know, don't bother working with bigger businesses. Of course. But the point of this is, you're probably networking with small micro-sized businesses. Why aren't you servicing those guys? Because they're spending money and they need your services. You can do both. You can be over here in the small micro business world, and you can be up here in the corporate space. These guys here are going to get you over there, but they're only going to get you over there if they have a taster of what it is that you do, and that they can genuinely open doors for you if and when that time arises. Friends, parents, whoever it is they're related to, that they know that they can get you in the door.
And that was the other point that came up from this, that depending on who you are trying to reach, have you adjusted your message accordingly? Or are you saying something that generically fits you in the middle, that it doesn't really appeal to the 1 to 9 person market, and then equally doesn't appeal to the 50 plus? Because the language, the terminology, Kelly, they're going to be very different, aren't they?
They are.
Depending on which of those you're targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was a point raised. We had Only Cornwall. We launched that group today, and actually one of the visitors that came along said, "Can I be a little bit bold and just say something?" She said, "When we talk about bigger businesses," she said, "and I'm actually guilty of this myself, I don't think we mean we want to talk to bigger businesses. I think what we're trying to say is we want to talk to quality connections that can make decisions and want to spend money with us." And I actually think that was probably spot on. And I don't know whether it is we want the bigger business, but we want the shortcut to that person that's going to give us what we want quicker. So maybe think about that when you're having that thought as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good point, isn't it? So it led us to talk about the fact that one of the questions we get asked, and this is now the kind of combination of those two talks.
Yeah.
How long does it take to get a result from networking? If I join your network, Kelly, how long is it going to take me to start making money? What's the question they should be asking?
There's many questions they should be asking, but I think the point here is, when are you going to behave in a way that generates networking results? That's the question that we were taught back with, isn't it? Because it isn't that easy. You know, a bit like, oh, I'll come and join the group in September because it's going to be quiet over the summer. Yeah, you might miss 12 opportunities over those 3 months. You know, you never know where it's going to be. It's the behavior that you drive will mirror how many results you get back from it. And if you can't be bothered to put the behavior in place, and you can't be bothered to network with the right attitude, you're not going to get it back, are you?
Let's just give an extreme example to kind of point out what we mean here. So say you're a person that goes to networking events, you've tried a few different networks, you go along, and if you were brutally honest, you're a little bit jaded by networking. You go along to the event, you come online, you're waiting for your chance to speak. You may be thinking, I'll just do a few emails, because all they're doing is doing their intros, and I'll do a bit in the background, and I'll get a bit animated when I speak, and I'll say to people, I'm really open for one-to-ones. And I'll tell you what, if you want to help me, you can go and like my, go and follow me on Instagram. That'd help me out. And I'll tell you what, I'd love a referral. And then you kind of duck off here. You leave the meeting, you don't really connect with anyone on LinkedIn. You don't like other people's stuff. You don't really show a lot of interest. Yeah. You keep repeating that at the same network or at multiple networks. You could literally do that for the rest of your life and potentially never get one piece of business. Why is that, Kelly? What?
Because of the attitude that you're displaying and the behavior that you're not showing, and you're not building the consistency. You know, really good networkers, if you think about your network, the really good networkers you've probably known for a long time. You see them consistently, they turn up, they're professional, they're at the meetings. There's a reason for that, right? You have to build that familiarity. You have to see the same people at networking, because if they don't see you, they forget about you. Like they'll remember the other person that they see consistently and frequently. It's a two-way game, isn't it? You talk about this. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. And if you're just hitting, you know, if you're just targeting networks just to tick a box, fine, continue with that behavior, because you might be lucky and you might gain something from it. But considering we live in a really noisy, busy world and we're all time poor, I just don't understand why anybody would employ that strategy of just turning up, seeing what I can get, and not really having an agenda or a community build as a result.
We're going to touch on that later, because the title of this is that, you know, you are your best marketing asset, and the whole relationship thing kind of comes to the fore. We'll come on to that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, that point about behavior, and I think consistency, this is not to criticize what you've said, Kelly, but I think we need to be clear by what we mean by consistency. People can consistently go networking.
Yes.
It's the same as you can.
Yes.
You often hear people go, you've got to consistently post on LinkedIn 5 times a week. And I will say this, that's not a guarantee of success, right?
No.
That's a guarantee that you're going to use a lot of time, but the consistency, it's offline, because the whole point of that is consistency of the right behavior is what's going to drive a result. So if you just keep posting variations of the same thing, but you don't have an engaged audience, if you consistently turn up at networking, but you don't have, you haven't really built relationships, you haven't earned any credit, you've shown yourself to be a bit of a taker who doesn't really listen to others, the consistency, you're consistently doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Same as you can consistently do social media wrong if you just you're in constant broadcast mode.
Yeah.
So yes, you do need consistency of attendance and activity, but you got to learn to do it right. And I think, Kelly, it's another overlooked thing. Learn. Like,
yeah.
Do you go to networking to learn about how you're perceived, how other people build relationships? We miss an opportunity, don't we, if we're not there?
Yeah, we do. And I think we don't look at the facts. We're just too busy doing the do, but not really looking at what the outcome of that is. And I don't want to say ROI, because for me, it's not always about the pound signs as an ROI, but what is it you're gaining from it? And if it's just because you're ticking a box and you're going through this stuff, well, like you're saying, it's not giving you anything. Why do you keep doing the same thing? You've got to change something about it, haven't you, to make it work better?
Definitely. Okay, let's move on. So chasing shortcuts. I mean, this is one of those topics that did come up via this networking conversation. But I think this is part of a bigger worrying culture. And of course, it's perpetuated by social media and people exaggerating with their own marketing. Oh, you shouldn't be wasting time anymore. You should just automate everything, outsource the rest, and go on holiday. Like a business has ever been built on that basis, that from a starting point of no customers or a handful of customers, you can just fly straight away. What's your thoughts on that, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it? I mean, really, we're not sat here, are we? We're sat on a little Caribbean island somewhere. This is just, no. If you can do that,
What
you're
were
very
you
lucky.
say there? What are we, like holograms?
Some
like
sort of
AI?
hologram, some sort of vision of. I'd try and explain something to do with the Matrix, but I've no idea what I'm talking about. So no, I don't know. But we are really sat here. I think people that think that's easy to achieve, not sure about that. But what I would say is we probably do try to automate processes a little bit too early within our businesses, or we maybe try and rely on the AI generated messaging content, prompts, rather than actually listening to people and understanding what they've got to say, what they value about us, what they need to hear from us, or even expecting referrals and sales before built any credit within the room. So there's a bigger picture there, isn't there? I've set up a business, and I talk to people in this space all the time, and it can be done, but I've set up a business, haven't got a customer yet, but I'm automating all the sequences so that when I do get a customer, they go through this funnel and it's all done, and it's all, get a customer first. Ask your customer what it is they want to hear, what it is they want to see, how much of you they need involved in that space. And then it's easier to set up all those systems and processes based on real time human feedback, not what you think you want to put somebody through.
If you had the budget, you'd probably do a 2-year research program, and you do tons of customer analysis, behavioral analysis. You do tons of surveys. I can remember meeting one of the guys who was involved in Red Bull when Red Bull launched back in the 90s, and they had all these. They knew exactly who that buyer was, right? And they did the tie-ins with all the right brands, Ministry of Sound at the time, the PlayStation Wipeout game, because they knew how that audience thought. They knew what to say. They knew what they responded. They knew what reaction they'd get from a certain style or a certain message. That would have cost, like millions and millions of pounds, and a lot of research and a lot of conversations. And then once you've built the systems, you press the button and it goes. And that's the point. But most of us don't have 10 million quid to give to an agency to help us build that picture. So
Yeah.
our version of it, and this is definitely what we did at Networking, Kelly, wasn't it? We just had to talk to people. We just have to ask questions. What are your pain points? What are you struggling with? What would make your life better? What's going to make your business better? And that, for me, is what until you've done that, you can't automate. You can't even properly use AI to help you build content, because you don't. Chat GPT is just going to agree with what you put into it. It's not going to particularly challenge you and go, James, you might want to think about the fact that you don't know that customer that well. So we've got to do the upfront work before we build the engine, and then we start the engine and it just runs. But even a running engine needs maintenance and tweaking.
Trying to fit people into an already built system that you don't know works, people will bounce out of that very quickly. Building a system around people for a process that you know works is going to be way more sustainable and more strategic. If you think about us within Only, we had, I think we had, it wasn't until we got to 250 members, we were sending every email like individually. Onboarding, we would write them a letter, we'd use our quill and our ink, but we were doing that individually. And I didn't even have templates that I copy and pasted. And I can remember you saying to me, you could at least have a template that you send out, but we didn't, because we knew it was really important to have that personal touch. And it was only at the 250 member point that we went, we probably need to look at an onboarding system, because there's some of this stuff that we can streamline and automate. And we're 7.5 years in, and we're still working on it now. Because things change. Like, we've just revamped the entire onboarding process because people's habits change. What they prioritize changes, what they need to see first changes, how they want to be made to feel special quicker, obviously, because we're humans, we want to be looked after. So, and it's not a case of build it once and then it's done, because things happen.
Yeah, definitely. The magic marketing solution doesn't exist, same as networking. There isn't just a, but if I say that, surely I'm just going to get so. The amount of people I've had conversations with recently where I say, oh, who have you offered that product to? Firstly, I'll probably have to drag out of them what the product is. And secondly, have you actually told what you've told me to any potential buyers? Oh, no, I don't really like to. So they don't know what you're selling, yet you expect a sale.
Exactly right.
It's we can make life hard, can't we? Okay, we're going to mention Bibby again. Our friends at Bibby, Kelly, look at the banner. Thanks, Izzy, that's just appeared. So if you don't know Bibby Financial Services, they are one of the UK's largest independent small to medium enterprise funders, and they are part of a long-established family business. So they've been providing specialist and adaptable working capital finance and foreign exchange solutions to businesses for more than 40 years, Kelly. And they are rated excellent on Trustpilot, supporting over 8,500 clients across 9 countries.
So if your business is looking to improve its cash flow, invest in new equipment, refinance existing equipment, or trade more efficiently internationally, then give them a call on 0808 501 6622 or visit bibbyfinancialservices.com/only.
Thank you, Bibby. So let's just kind of bring this all together, Kelly, and back to the title about you being the marketing asset. I think what we've realized is when you strip this all back, whether it's learning about how your marketing is going to work, learning about whether your products and services are applicable and people want to buy them, networking, and particularly if you're fearful of, surely with automation and AI, we won't have jobs anymore. But it's going to come down to relationships, isn't it, to build these things?
Yes, it really is. And, when you really properly connect with people, you do get introductions, you do get partnerships, you will get referrals, but you'll also get insight and feedback on your messaging and even your sales. Like, you can genuinely build such rapport with your networking connections that you can ask them for feedback on any element of your business, and they're going to want to help support you. Okay. And you can also learn how to talk about what you do more clearly and confidently. It's really good exercise. If you've been networking with someone for a long time, ask them, do you understand what I do? Is it clear? who I'm looking to connect with. What do you think I could say that would help people? You know, given what you know what I do, given the information you've got, how would you describe me? And see what comes back.
It's the echo chamber otherwise, isn't it? You know, we talk about this on social media and it's an easy target, isn't it? Of people just shouting and hoping for attention, getting no feedback and getting frustrated. So we talk about networking, two-way real-time feedback, and that's absolutely true. But it doesn't necessarily, well, there's two problems with it. One, depending on your behavior, you might not get that two-way feedback because you're not particularly open to it. But particularly with online, well, no, I'd say all forms of networking, there can still be a tendency to go, oh, hello, Kelly, it's lovely to meet you. I'll pitch at you, you pitch at me, we'll shake hands and off we go. Never the twain shall meet. So it's not a given, is it? But do we undervalue? Do you think people go networking to listen? Do you think they go onto social media to listen and learn?
No. The good networkers do. I would say some of the best networkers I know just listen and ask questions. Very understated. I would put myself in this category. I can describe who I am and what I do in about 90 seconds on a one-to-one because I want to talk about the other person. And, you know, I do it for a job all day long. If people want to find out more about me, they'll ask questions. And I'm sometimes shocked at how many people don't ask more questions. And, you know, when you do talk about yourself very quickly, the other person might then take 20 minutes of a half an hour call to talk about themselves. But, you know, going back to your original point, just giving people space and sitting and looking at them and listening to them, you will stand out head and shoulders above most people that person's going to speak to in that day if you give your attention.
Definitely. Yeah, we got a nice comment that's just popped up from James. Thank you, James.
Nice. That's lovely.
We're humans and we relate and grow relationships organically. And I think the more that we go down this sort of AI automation route, I think the more that we are going to be drawn towards relationships and that awful word authenticity, because there's so much inauthentic. I think that point about listening, I would just ask yourself these 3 questions. Well, how would I phrase this? Am I getting enough leads via my marketing? Yes or no? Okay. Am I getting enough sales off the back of those marketing leads? Yes or no? And the third question is, am I now so swamped with client work that I'm having to either think about employing other people or turning work away, right? And unless you can answer yes to all 3 of those questions, don't be trying to automate. Don't automate marketing if you're not getting enough leads. Don't automate sales and onboarding if you've not got enough clients or you're not getting enough sales. You've got to do more work. You've got to work out, well, how can I get more leads into the business on a regular basis? Then you switch the engine on and tweak it. Then you move on to sales. I mean, you can do it. Arguably, you should work on the sales bit first. But I think that's that whole point about, and again, if you don't have the money to spend with an agency or an expert that can help you work out your audience, work out the messaging, like the way that you're going to do it for free, because you're on the networking event anyway, and you're on social media anyway, is use it as an opportunity to learn. We try and jump to the switch. I just want to switch that machine on and then I can stand back. Sorry, that is not going to work.
No, and you have to remember that you are your biggest marketing tool. Your personal brand, how you represent your business. And if you go into a networking meeting just to do a tick box exercise, that can actually be more negative than positive if you're not acting and behaving in the right way. So I do agree with you, James. I think we all, saying this to myself as much as anybody else, we're all swept up in that. But what's the easy fix? What's the bit that I can just inject and I can save myself time and I can do this? You know, saving time in your bookkeeping, using Xero, that's a good use of automation, because we don't necessarily want to be sat in that space, and there's a tool there that can be, that's not going to be the be all and end all of whether you're going to get sales, but it's going to help streamline you and your business. Don't try and automate and streamline the things that, as to your point, may not be working in the first instance, because they won't work with AI on them or not if they're not actually working in the first place.
And that would be my closest version of a shortcut, because if you use a network correctly, and I say network in terms of people that you're connected to on social media as well as networking events, spend the next month, work out what your most likely to sell, lowest hanging fruit, easiest entry level product is, and then speak to 5 people that you meet at networking to ask them, is this a product that you think appeals? Can you think of anyone that might want to buy this? What would be a barrier to referring it or buying it? That's a shortcut, because they'll just give you that instant feedback. And then within a couple of weeks, you may be able to start presenting a message on social media, via your emails, at networking, that is something that people might want to buy. And then you're going to get feedback on that. And then you can keep going. That don't take long.
No, exactly.
But so you're looking for the shortcut in the wrong direction, rather than using maybe the resources that are under your nose. Maybe that just feels like that's still a little bit too much work, but it's business, isn't it? We're going to get paid because we've done something that doesn't already exist or is better than the alternatives.
Yeah.
You know, business is impact. It doesn't care.
No,
it
exactly.
responds to market demands, doesn't it? So
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're just going to wrap up. If you've been, if this has resonated today, particularly if you've been doing a lot of networking, thinking, but it doesn't just work, maybe it's time to learn some of the behaviors and actions that do make it work.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we've created the online business networking course. So really to stop you out there floating around all of these different things, and to give you some direction and start making meaningful, valuable connections. Because even with the smallest of tweaks to your networking attitudes and behaviours, you can make a real difference and a big impact. That's why we've put the course together. Absolutely.
£20 off you can get as a podcast show watcher or listener. The code is podcast20. And if you just said to the Only Network, only.network, we'll put this in the chat as well after we've done the recording, but you can get £20 off the course. £79, Kelly.
Bargain.
To get all that stuff, teaches you how to network from our perspective. So, well, thank you. What a lovely conversation. I haven't seen you for ages.
I know. It's great, isn't it? It's most we've talked in about 3 days.
Absolutely. I'll make you a drink in a minute and see you in a second. But everyone, thank you for listening. Thanks for joining us today. This has been Adventures in Networking, and we'll see you again next month.